country up there. The Black Hills Wilderness up there. Yeah. Gosh, I hope to go back someday.
All right, folks, we're in Macon, Georgia. Excuse the road noise. We are at Market Square. Not real sure why, because Pete sent us here. We're thinking it may be a joke, so good one, Pete. Anyway, so we're waiting on Pete and some other the North Carolina boys to get here, and we're gonna hit the river here in a little bit. So beautiful day. We'll check in with y'all in a little bit. Apparently, BNSF did not get the River King schedule, and they're blocking the road, and they're going to hear about it. Hey y'all, this is Dan with the Southern Paddler Channel, and welcome to Kayak Camping with the River Kings. Man, I was so excited to do this trip. If you're like me, and I know most of you are, you've been watching Pete Beck and the River Kings for years. I was watching them before I ever had my channel. They're one of the reasons that I started my channel. Him and Kevin and some of these other guys on this trip. You know, and when I first saw their kayak camping videos, I thought, that's what I want to do. That's what really drew me in. And so to get to do this with Pete was just an absolute blast. Also on this trip, as I mentioned, is Kevin Champ, who's one of the River Kings. He also has his own channel, The Wondering Electrician. Been watching him about as long as I have been Pete. And, of course, River King Greg Adams was on the trip. I've seen him on some videos. It was good to meet him. Greg actually bought our lunch. You've probably seen where we stopped at Fresh Air Barbecue. He bought everybody's lunch that day. What a generous gesture. Thank you so much, Greg, for that. The barbecue was delicious. Really appreciate him doing that. Mitchell Childers and Anthony Barber from Cross Paddles had the opportunity to meet and paddle with them last year on the Cahaba River with our buddy Brad Moore from Mountains and More. My buddy Wes was also on that trip with us. Wes, if you remember, was on the Buffalo National River trip that I just finished a couple weeks ago. So to have all those guys on there. Last but certainly not least is Crow. As the Crow flies hiking. This was my fourth trip to get to do with Crow. It's always a blast to get to hang out with him. I can assure you he's just as entertaining in person as he is on his videos. So we had another great time. All of these guys were just fantastic. We had so much fun. We laughed the whole time. And it was a great trip. So let's get started. We're on the Ocmulgee River. We're started just below the dam at Jackson Lake. We're going to go all the way down to Amerson River Park in Macon, Georgia, and camp 2 nights in between. So here's some action from the first day. Well, it's kind of funny that in my very last video, I said, I don't want to do whitewater kayaking where you have to wear a helmet. And look at me now. Now, granted, this was barely whitewater. You know, it was, maybe class 2 at most, and just barely that. But because of all the rocks, and the rocks were spread out, there was long stretches of them, Pete felt it was best that everybody had on their helmets. I had a spray skirt for my boat. This is my first time to wear it. It's only my second time to wear a helmet. But yeah, it's kind of funny. The last video I said I didn't want to do the kind of kayaking that required a helmet, and here I am with Pete and with a helmet on my head. So there you go. Anyway, we had a good time. It was fun. And so now let's enjoy some of the more scenic views of the Ocmulgee River before we get to our camp. Sing it, Crow.
You can't sing in a goose shot. Oh, who is this guy? Who did you bring on this trip, Dan?
So there's going to be a couple topics around the campfire tonight.
Kevin was like,
here's some things we need to work on for tomorrow's paddle.
all right, guys. Overall, good job. Dan. No singing in a goose shot.
You hear that beep, beep, beep? Unless you're screaming for your life, stop.
Actually, that'd be a great...
Well, as you can tell, there was no shortage of laughter on this trip. We had a good time. So here we are at camp. We found us a great campsite for night 1. It provided enough elevation to protect us from the rising water because of the dam release, so that was all good. Plenty of space for everybody, so you can see here we're set up, and it was a good spot. So we're just going to, once we get our camp set up, we're going to sit around, fix us some supper, talk, laugh, carry on, have a good time. We ended up having meme wars. There's an app you could download on your phone to generate memes, and so we were singing those back and forth, had a lot of fun, just laughing, carrying on, getting to know each other a little bit better. It was a great evening. But we're going to get settled in here in a little bit and get us some good rest for the evening because we know tomorrow is going to be a big day. Well, it's Saturday, day 2. We're breaking camp, getting everything packed up. And again, we know we've got a big day ahead of us. We've got to make 20 plus miles to stay on track. Plus, on top of that, we know that we're going to have to portage around the Juliet Dam. We're not exactly sure how long that's going to take or how we're even going to do that at this point. but we know that's ahead of us. We also know that right there at Juliet Dam is a Whistle Stop Cafe, the community where they film fried green tomatoes. We're going to stop there, hopefully get us some lunch. So we got a lot to do today. So we're getting on the water early and getting down this river, but we're certainly going to enjoy every mile that we paddle.
What? That's not the best line.
Yeah.
You got it there.
Not the best line. Woo.
Well, we made it to Juliet, and here we are walking up to the little community where they filmed fried green tomatoes, the Whistle Stop Cafe. Of course, being a Saturday and being about lunchtime at a touristy spot, there was a lot of people there. You can see all the cars. And there was like a 40-plus minute wait to get into the cafe, so we just found us a store where we got us some soft drinks and snacks and decided to just cool it for a little bit and then work on our shuttle. While we're standing around in town, one of our guys, Mitchell, I think, got to talking to a volunteer fireman, asked, hey, he was standing next to his truck, said, hey, can you give us a ride? We need a shuttle. He's like, well, he couldn't. He said, but he would call his friend at the bait shop. So he called his friend at the bait shop. He said he would. So he come down there and met us, picked us up, took us down to the Tawaliga River Retreat where there was a river access. They let us use their access. And so we're thankful for the fine people of the Juliet community for helping us out and getting us around that dam and back on the river. And so we're setting off for the second part of our day. So here's where it gets interesting on day 2. You can tell it's getting dark. The sun's already down behind the trees. We're looking for a camp spot. At this point, I can't remember exactly. We've probably already stopped once, maybe twice, and the camp spots just aren't showing up. We're just not finding a place to stop. We stopped the first time. Crow and Pete went up in the woods. They was gone several minutes, come back and said, it's not good. We're rolling the dice. That was kind of our catchphrase for the evening, rolling the dice, and keep going. And so we did. Well, the next time we stopped, I said, all right, I'm going up there and checking this out myself. So sure enough, I went up there, and they had already been up there a little bit, and they were coming from way back in the woods, and the trees just weren't there. It was a wooded area, and there were trees, but they weren't spaced enough to hang 8 hammocks. It was really sparse in the first part. You had to go way back in it. The undergrowth was a little much, and so that one wasn't good either. And so we just kept going down the river, kept looking. We couldn't find anything. And so here we're going down a side channel. There's an island on our right. We're thinking, man, maybe this island will provide us something, but it doesn't. There's just nothing there. And see, part of what we have to keep in mind is that the upstream dam from Jackson Lake, they generate power every night, release water. And so the water level is going to come up several feet. So we have to make sure that we have a spot that's high enough to protect us from the water coming up at night. And again, we just didn't find a spot that we felt like provided us that safety from the rising water, as well as just a spot conducive for hanging 8 hammocks. So we just had to keep on going. So we had cell coverage most of the way down, and we're looking at our phones, and we're like, hey, we're 6-7 miles from Macon, our destination. Let's just go ahead and finish this thing out, because we all agreed that being this close, we didn't want to set up camp if we found a spot and then have to get up and paddle just a few miles, then unload and do all that again. So we agreed just to finish it out. So we did. So we're paddling in the pitch black, and so it had been fairly mild for several miles. And so we're thinking, okay, just stick together. We all had headlamps. It'll be fine. So we're paddling along, and then all of a sudden we hear this. Oh, crap. Rapids at night. Not anything I had done before. Honestly, not anything I really ever wanted to do. But here we go.
Okay. Mark on the right. Clear. Oh, no, I've been saying some prayers. Yeah. Woo.
Well, we made it through fine. Nobody turned over. That was good. And this wasn't the only one. There was probably 2 or 3 sets of rapids that we went through after it was pitch black. And generally, we just tried to stay close together, and you just followed the person in front of you. We got to the takeout, and of course, we were relieved. It was a little after 11 p.m., and we had done 30-something miles today, been on the water for 14, 15 hours. I'm not sure, maybe more. And we get to the takeout here, and we see the steps, but there's a little bit of ground between us and the steps. Well, that ground was like 2 to 3 foot of mud. I mean, you took a step out and you sank up to your knees, period. So everybody had to take their shoes off because they didn't want to lose their Crocs and slides and whatever. And traipse through that mess, and get mud up to your knees. Then you get the first couple of steps. They're slick as ice because of that mud on them. And again, the water coming up and down every night from the dam. So we get out, get all of our boats dragged up like 3 flights of stairs, get up to the top, figure out where we're going to camp. Once we find some trees that we can hang our hammocks from, we drag our boats over close to those trees. We set up our hammocks. The trees weren't the greatest. Some of them were pretty small, and I think a couple of guys woke up with their butts on the ground. The trees just couldn't handle it. But anyway, it was an adventure. And what's the saying? Even bad adventures make for great stories. Well, we definitely have some great stories from this. Once we got our camp set up, 6 of our 8 decided we wanted to go to Waffle House. Pete had looked it up, found one. There was only 3 minutes away walking distance. It ended up being a little more than 3, but still it was worth the trip. And keep in mind that our lunch plans didn't really work out. You know, we basically had Cokes and snacks for lunch, didn't have a real meal. So by this point, once we're set up, several of us are just absolutely famished. A couple of guys were really tired, just wanted to go to bed, and that's fine. So we went to Waffle House, had us a good meal, came back, and I don't know, you know, it's 2 a.m. or later when I finally get in my hammock and go to sleep. And I slept like a baby. Some of the best sleep I ever had in my life. But unfortunately, only a few hours later, Pete's shaking my hammock saying, get up, we gotta pack up. And of course we had to get up before sunrise to pack up because we were essentially stealth camping in the city park. We didn't want people to see us, and by the time I woke up, there was already somebody in the park walking their dog. And so we got our camp broke down, our boats loaded up, and we sat there and waited for our shuttle, which was going to arrive around 7:30. Trip showed up and took us to get our vehicles. We came back and loaded up. And our one last hoorah, as we're going out of town, we decided to stop and eat a Cracker Barrel. So we had us a good lunch there and enjoyed laughs and reliving and recounting the events from the previous day or two. And just had one last great time together around a good breakfast. We got on the road and headed back home. And just, wow, what a great trip. So again, I'd like to thank River King Pete for planning this trip out, putting it together, for inviting me and all these other guys. We had an absolute blast, so much fun, and just very thankful to have this opportunity, thankful to have these memories, and thankful to have these new friendships. And I hope that these will grow and strengthen over the coming months and years, and certainly hope that we can do another trip again real soon. Thanks for watching. See y'all later.